What is up? What is up? What is up? Welcome to my podcast, Guys Dealings with Feelings. As always, I appreciate you spending some time with me. I'll try to use your time wisely and give as much good stuff as I can. And before I get going, I wanted to ask everyone for a favor. If you're listening and you like this, if you could like this wherever you're listening, if you could join my Instagram page, follow me there, ITU Thrive. You could follow my YouTube channel, follow me there, ITU Thrive. Like I say, leave comments. I'll get back to you. If I see a comment anywhere, I'll get back to you. And if you could let your friends and family know that this is out here and it's going on, I'm trying to reach as many guys as I can. If that means some gals listen to, that's great. We'd love for anybody to listen, and hopefully it can help get a journey kicked off for you. So today I was wanting to discuss the reaction to a traumatic event. Per normal, a traumatic event is subjective. It's who it happened to, the fact that they've acknowledged that it has happened and it's something that has affected them in a way negatively. And so, we're talking about divorces, we're talking about custody issues, talking about death of parents, dealing with difficult circumstances at work, sexual harassment, domestic violence. All of these things are traumatic. And I understand that in my instance, it's obvious how traumatic it was. I mean, when you lose a child, any way, it is awful and traumatic. I think death is traumatic for all of us. And so I just want to make sure that everybody is understanding there's no grading trauma. There's no, this one's so much worse, and so you shouldn't worry about yours. And it's all bullshit. It's all subjective. It's all in you, how you feel, how you want to feel. And if you're being negatively affected by something that has occurred, a set of circumstances or an event that has occurred in your life, then get some work done and start working on attacking it. There is hope. You can get past the negative space you're in. I've been in some really, really negative spots and felt hopeless and overwhelmed. And I have been able to get to a point where that is no longer the case. I'm happier than I've ever been. I'm excited about my future. I live a fulfilling life. And so I want to share. And so today what I'm sharing with you is that trauma does not have to define who you are. Your reaction to the trauma will. So you can get caught up in the victim mentality, I guess is the best way to put it. And some of us are definitely victims of things. I'm not a victim of anything, but some people are victims of heinous things. And I understand that in that sense of the word, you're a victim. The rest of your life does not have to be a victim just because you're a victim in a moment. I want to encourage people to understand that they can make the trauma the rebounding point. You can make the trauma the rebounding point or the kickoff point or the foundation point of you becoming your best self. And that is what I say when the trauma occurs, and the way that you react to the trauma can define who you are. And that definition of you is an amazing definition. When we let the trauma define who we are, we're a wilting flower. We're dying inside. We're not progressing. We're not growing. We're going backwards. We're dying. Even if we don't choose to take our lives, we are slowly doing it. And I regret the 7 years I lost. I can't imagine getting all the way to the end and being on my deathbed and looking back and being like, oh my God, I can't believe I just spent all that time acting as though I couldn't progress. I couldn't get better. I couldn't do things because a set of circumstances happened to me. And so I want to encourage you to try to take a different view or a different look at how you see what has happened to you in your life. Of course, we can spin things to make ourselves feel better or look better or whatever the case may be by making ourselves the victim of someone else's actions. And again, in some circumstances, I get it. If you are a victim of an assault, then you are truly a victim. Now, what can we do to prevent these things from happening moving forward? When we're children, we're really powerless over a lot of situations and can be victimized. Once we make it out of that situation, though, how do we react to it? And we can continue to have the mentality that we are going to be victimized, and we will continue to be victimized as a result. We will continue to be a victim, if not of actual things that other people are doing to us. We'll become a victim to ourselves. We'll become a victim to how we look at life and how we feel about it, and we'll become a victim of anything we can put ourselves in that position for. So when things begin to occur to us, and I just, man, how does this keep happening to me? And have you changed anything? Since the last time something negative happened, have you changed anything to ensure that it doesn't happen again? What role did you play? How could you have done better? How can you become a different person, or a better person, or a person who doesn't put themselves in a position for these things to happen? Again, if it's a victim of an assault or whatever, and you're a victim on that day, that doesn't mean you're a victim forever going forward. And I know that I'm talking to the old me on this one. And I've said, poor me, how bad the stuff this is I'm having to live with, and on and on and on. And what I did was I used that as an excuse to not progress like I should, to not take the action I should, to not make the changes in my life that I needed to. And I don't want others making that same mistake. If they can hear me and this could somehow jar them, if you can look at how you can make things better for your circumstances and yourself now. I get it. Bad stuff happens. Bad stuff happens to good people all the time. Good people make mistakes and create bad times for other people all the time. And whatever side of the spectrum you're on, whether you created the pain or you're the one who had the pain created for you, doesn't matter. It's still pain. And, there's guilt with those when we do actions that make others a victim, or they're a victim of our actions, whether it's just we've hurt their feelings, we've made their circumstances worse, whether we did it purposefully or not, that comes with guilt. So bad decisions and all that. And all this begins to build up inside of us. And when we don't deal with it, shit's going to come out, and it's going to come out in a negative way. So if you can get ahead of these things and you can stay out in front and say, I need to make some changes. I don't like the way I feel and I need to make some changes. Treat the traumatic event as your kickoff point. I know it's put you in a bad spot. It's put you in a low point. And if you've ever been to AA meeting or or something like that, you go around and everybody's talking about how low they are and hitting rock bottom. And, that's how they got out of it, was once they hit rock bottom. And trauma, when we suffer a traumatic event, often it puts us in a rock bottom like state. And to use this as your foundation to rebuild upon, and take it as a time to reflect and figure out what you can do to make your life better and to prevent things like this from happening again. Almost immediately after Joel dying, I was so dead set on trying to help. And I was a mess. I didn't have any business really trying to do much of anything other than get my shit together. But I knew that one way that was going to help me heal was to try to do some outreach. And since I was so unaware of heat stroke deaths and how they occur, I learned and learned and learned, and I tried to get the word out. Just be aware that it happens. Being aware that it happens is a proactive way to prevent it from happening. You don't have to. There was some tools like putting your shoe back there with the baby to make sure. And people, of course, are judgmental, and they were like, "How do you forget your baby in the back?" And it's not. You don't forget. It's an accident. Your brain tells you you've done something that you haven't done. So you remember doing an event. It was on a previous day, but you remember doing an event and it wasn't on that day. So your brain has actually tricked you into thinking you do. So it's not a forget thing. And of course, nobody thinks they're going to forget their child in the car and the child die of a heat stroke. That nobody thinks that's going to happen, but it happens 40 times a year pretty consistently. And so I think that just being aware and making others aware this is happening helps prevent it. So I tried almost immediately. Now, again, I was a mess and I did some news shows think the family, there was a whole weekend thing that the news did with us. And, I think there was some real positive benefits in that. I know the putting baby with shoe is something that's still alive and well, that's gone across the internet. It wasn't us that did it, but the idea, I know we came up with it. I'm sure others have too. So whatever, letting Joel's life make an impact. And all of these are reactions to the trauma and not allowing the trauma to define who we are. And for a long time it did, so I went from trying to help right away, to falling kind of what felt like into a powerless pit of hell that I stayed in. And, I tell you guys a lot, I stayed in that for like 7 years, stayed stuck there, and I don't ever want to go back there. It was an awful place to be. I was sad and depressing and wrought with anxiety. It was awful. So I don't ever want to go back there. And so I know I've got to continue to work. I've got to continue to plow. And now I've gotten to a place where I can help others heal or recover, because I have done so much work and worked on myself. I continue to do that. I make mistakes on a regular basis. Again, I try to keep those mistakes as small as possible so that they don't affect me as bad as previous mistakes in my life would have affected me. Instead of a mistake being a lifelong thing I've got to regret, mistakes now are food that I eat, or, being a little late to something that I wasn't planning on being late to, but it's not that big of a deal that I'm late. So tell some guys I want to meet them out to play pickleball and I'm 20 minutes late to that. I'm not feeling that bad. I'm upset that I wasn't punctual, but it's not like not showing up to class or practice or something like that. I do show up to all those commitments. I make sure that if I make a commitment, I'm there. But, so often in my past, I would make mistakes and it would be, lifelong regret, or it would take me months or years to dig out of the mistake I made. Whether, if I bought a car I shouldn't have bought, it takes me for years to get out from under it. Or, I made a bad financial decision, and so it takes years to recover from the financial decision. And I understand it and I get it. But if we can pull back from all of that, especially after something traumatic has happened to us, and think, man, it's not that bad. Like, I get it. I don't have any money right now, and that sucks. And I get that not having money sucks. But it's not as bad as the traumatic event. Like, we're cleared that and we're moving forward. And so you can begin to start seeing, like, you start building yourself up knowing, man, I'm a badass because I was able to get through that. Not that I really thrived through it, but that I made it through it. And once you make it through it, then you say, oh, hey, hold on. What else could I do for myself? And you begin to learn, about your emotions and identifying them. And then you begin to learn some more tools and meditation and how to stay present and getting out in nature and experiencing that, and the humility that comes with it, and the amazing, how amazing it is that we get to be part of such an awesome thing that is this world, and then shrink it down into this society that we're in, and have all these great friends that we have. And, we've got family, and I get it. Some of us don't have any friends and some of us don't have any family. Those of us who don't have any friends, I encourage you to look in the mirror and say, what can I do? If you want friends, some people don't want any friends. If you want friends because you're lonely, and most humans that don't have friends can be lonely, I would assume, and you want friends, then work on yourself to become the best human you can be. And I promise you, friends will show up. There is a need for good human beings on this earth. And if every one of us was a good human being, maybe we'd get sick and tired of good human beings. I doubt that would happen, but we don't even have a threat of that right now, because to be a good human being and treat others well and be kind at all turns, not worrying about what they've got going in their life, whether it's religion or politics or sexual orientation or this or that or the other, all these hot button things that have us just at each other's throat on a constant basis. And for what? For what? I don't understand it all. I can't understand it all. But I do know that if you can pull back from all of that and you can just exude kindness and you can just have a perspective that is looking for the positive in every situation, even when you step in a mud puddle or stub your toe, in the most clearly obvious negative things. And I go on about it, about losing Joel and how I've been able to have a positive perspective about that. I can't change it. And so I might as well look at it for what it is. And man, has it taught me a lot of really, really hard lessons, but I'm sure glad I know those things now. And I know how much better of a person I am now and how much I've learned since then. And if you can do that, if you can change your perspective and you can know what makes you happy and you can change those things, now you're reacting to a trauma. And now that reaction is defining who you are. You are becoming the person who you've always wanted to be or who you've just learned you want to be. Who gives a shit? You're just becoming that person now. And you don't have to worry about the future, because if you're doing the right things and you're taking the right actions and you're doing the right steps, that the right things will happen. And I guess that falls into the realm of faith, just having faith that things will happen, but it's not I don't consider it faith, because you're really making things happen. You're not doing things and then hoping something's going to happen. You're doing things and they're going to work out because you're doing all the right things. And when things don't work out and you look in the mirror and say, what could I have done differently? And you identify the things you could have done differently, and then you do those things differently, you don't find yourself in that same negative circumstance again. It just doesn't happen. We have to take responsibility for ourselves and our action and what we do and the decisions we make and the decisions that we make inside of ourselves, and what we spend time focusing on, what we spend time actually doing and not doing. If you're sitting around upset about the negative things that have happened and saying that nothing is ever going to happen, then that's what's going to happen. Nothing good's ever going to happen, and you're going to stay sitting around thinking about negative stuff. But if you can bust through it, and it takes some willpower, and the more willpower you use, the more willpower you'll have. It's been scientifically proven. There's some cortex, I'm not sure who it was. Huberman talks about it in his podcast. He's a neuroscientist, and they found a cortex when we exude willpower, we will grow that cortex. It'll get stronger. And then when we don't exude willpower any longer, it'll shrink and it'll get weaker. So we'll have less willpower. The more willpower you exude, so if there's something you don't want to do and you do it, you're going to be stronger for the next time. And then and it keeps growing and growing and growing. And then when you stop, it shrinks back down. So it doesn't matter how much hard work you do. So I'm 50, 11 years, it's been 11, I've come about 11 and a half years now. I haven't had any alcohol. And that really hasn't been a ton of work for me, but I know for some it does. You find yourself 11 and a half years into alcohol and you just quit working on the shit. You don't reflect. You don't make sure that you're, keeping your head up, staying strong. Then when the headwinds start blowing and something bad happens that you weren't anticipating, you're already weakened and you will fold. So addiction is an easy one to point at. We're fighting an addiction, and so here I am 11 years in, not drinking alcohol, but I'm not really paying attention to my mental well-being or how I'm approaching life or my daily routines, things like that, my diet. I'm not paying attention to any of that stuff. And so what happens when I catch a right hook from life? Well, I fold like a deck of cards and I fall into bad patterns, bad behaviors, things that are sabotaging and create negative momentum. If I do and I do that because I wasn't practicing, I wasn't honing my skills, where I sit today is very strong and feel very confident that whatever life throws at me, I won't go to certain places, and drinking would be one of them. Being a negative person would be another. Of course, I could be sad and I can have depression and I can deal with all those things, but that doesn't mean I have to stay there. So I know that there will be negative times in my life. I have parents, and they will pass, and that'll be very sad, and I will be sad in those moments. But I won't live there, and I won't stay there long, and I'll try to reflect on all the awesome things in their lives and how they made my life so much better, even with their mistakes, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So I'll have the right perspective on it. And the one I look at that would really, really test me, and I pray, not that I really pray, but I pray that it doesn't happen again, was to lose another child. And, that would be one that would really test me. And I really, 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 really hope that I'm not put in that position again. But I'm practicing every day to be prepared for whatever comes into my life. And it doesn't, I think it might sound like that's a lot of work, just being ready and being present. And when I was learning to do it, it was a lot of work. But, and when I stop doing it, I'll lose kind of some momentum or whatever, and I have to build it back up. But it's all, you don't ever start back at zero. You don't forget what you've already learned. So when life hits you with the right hooks that it's going to hit you with, whether it's a divorce, whether it's custody issues, whether you've gotten fired from a job, you don't have any money, you go through a death, you experience a death, whether it's a human or an animal that you loved or whatever. I mean, death sucks. Like, death is so hard. It's so final. So if you can look at that and you can take it on for the challenge that it's going to be, and you're going to have some negative emotions you're going to need to lean into, go through them, feel them, etc. But then begin to build yourself back up to the best version of you. Then your reaction to the trauma is what will define you. So it's very easy to let the trauma define you. Laying there, sulking and depressed and not wanting to leave the house because I'm anxious. All those are very valid options for me to choose. I did choose them for a long time, but that let the trauma define me. And I don't have control over the past, and I do have control over how I react to it. So I want to control me and my being. Therefore, I control what I can, and I will react to the things that happen to me in a positive manner and with the tools that I know to use and execute so that I don't have regret further in life. So I'm setting myself up for end of life when I get there to have the least amount of regrets as possible. And I would encourage everyone to do the same, like to know that you tried your hardest in the moments, knowing what you knew then. Obviously, we don't know. There's so much I would do different knowing what I know now, but I can't. And I must be appreciative of what I learned from those things that I do regret and don't let them happen again. And so I do those things and I try to stay present and enjoy the things that are in the moment, and so that I won't have those regrets any longer. And I encourage you to do the same thing. And all this can be broken down into a granular level, but I'm trying to stay kind of high level with everyone here at the beginning. And that with the more that I have out here and the more content I have that you can reflect back on, go back through and check out. So these first, few, I'm wanting to stay high level, and then we can get down granular, it's something like this. And you've got to learn all these different tools. And I say all these different things, 10, 15 things you can implement in your life that'll just change your life forever. And they're not the only ones you can do. And it's not the only path that you can take, but it's a path and it does work. And there's a lot of evidence to prove this. And I'm definitely evidence to prove that it works. I couldn't, I couldn't imagine ever have gotten to the place that I am today. And so to be here every day and to live here, I'm just so grateful for. And I'm grateful to be doing what I'm doing. And I'm grateful to be out here trying to help the best I can and giving it my all and learning more and doing all those things and letting my reaction to what has happened in my life, not just losing Joel, but all the things. I was raised single mom and working all the time, typical Gen X. And then, there were some hard times that I put on myself, and just getting through all of those things and looking back and saying, man, look at all the things I've been able to overcome and accomplish. I can do anything I want. And then you have the confidence and the power to drive you through the things that you need to be driven through, to get you over humps you need to get over, to get you past hurdles that you encounter in life. And I just really encourage you to take a step back, and instead of saying, poor me, say, man, I'm fortunate to have gone through all that shit, because it really has taught me how strong I can be, how resilient I can be, how much I can learn. And it can really give you the confidence that you need to propel into your best life and to live your best life and to be fulfilled with the decisions that you make and the experiences that you have, and not look at them as if they're happening to you, as if you're some victim of all the circumstances around you. And I know we've heard that from a lot of people, and it's hard to hear when you're down and out, and I get that. And all I can tell you is I don't know how much more down and out I could have gotten to, and these things work for me. And so, and it really takes the mentality shift of knowing that you are in control of a lot of things in your life. Yeah, we got to accept control for the things we don't control too, and I understand that. But we are in control of so many things, and we do have the ability to change our circumstances and our surroundings, and to take something like a swift kick to the gut, like trauma, and to turn it into something that leads to your best life. Really is you controlling things, and it is you controlling the narrative that I am not going to be defined by what has happened to me. I will be defined by my actions and the things that I control, and that is my reaction to this bad thing. So I hope that resonates with you. I hope that sits with you, hits home. And really, really what I hope is that it spawns you to kick off your own recovery journey, to take this thing by the horns and say that I am going to control my present, which is going to dictate my future. And if you like this episode, I encourage you to check out the other episodes. Again, if you could leave me a like, if you could share it with all your friends, I'd really appreciate it. And we'll be back with some more soon. Again, your time is so valuable to me. Thank you so much, and I hope you have an amazing day.